It's time for part 4 of my favorite demos from Steam Next Fest. We have another great lineup of some amazing and interesting demos you should be checking out. And with that, let's get to today's selection. We're starting things off with Wall World 2, the sequel to the game that kind of took the formula from Dome Keeper in a different direction. Last time we climbed the wall both from bottom to top, and apparently there's more wall to be climbed. This time, the game's structure kind of takes into more of a grand campaign style. You'll have different regions to explore with missions to achieve, as well as collecting resources that will allow you to get permanent and temporary upgrades. You'll still use crystals that you mine in order to upgrade your spider mech during a run, and then the accumulated dust is your persistent currency that is used to buy new weapons, permanent upgrades, etc, etc. So the new structure is that you'll go to different missions in different regions, and there's kind of like the overall threat level, so it no longer automatically resets back to 0. I don't know in the main game if there'll be ways of like having a region cool off, or you just keep going until it gets too difficult. The basics are once again on display. You'll go into mines, collect the resources, and of course defend yourself when the aliens invade you. Now aliens can show up in the mines themselves, so there's a little bit more going on. From our time with the demo, I enjoyed this one as a fan of the first. The formula is kind of being kept relatively the same except for those few adjustments. So if you enjoyed the first one, this should be a very easy recommendation, and I am definitely looking forward to playing more of it. And now we switch over to Lyara. This is a 2D challenging platformer where you play a young girl who is trapped in a strange world. Creatures are all around her, she has a very unhelpful panda following her around, and in order to get out, we're going to have to do a lot of air dashing, jumping, and of course resetting of levels to do so. Our main tech from the demo is very much that of Celeste. You get access to your air dash. Now, you have very limited wall jumping in this, so a lot of this challenge once again is figuring out how to get from point A to point B. You can pick up objects that can be flung, but while you're holding them, you are not allowed to dash. There are of course hidden collectibles in certain levels that will challenge you to go off the beaten path. I really love the art style in this one, especially some of the larger creature designs. The difficulty is a little bit awkward at the moment. When you're in the single screen rooms, it's not that bad. But when you start getting into multi-screen rooms and the quote-unquote boss fights, it's when it definitely gets a little bit more annoying. The boss battles could probably stand to use a checkpoint like a little bit more than what I saw there, as it's not a long kind of walk back if you die, but you still have to repeat a good like part of the challenging section to then get back to the boss section. I'm definitely interested in this one as a lover of Celeste and all things challenging and platforming related. So if you enjoyed Celeste and looking for a very different theme and take on it, I would give this one a play. And now we go to Neverawake Flashback. This is the sequel to the first dream-like shmup. We actually played this one a few years ago, but now it's back in roguelite form. This time, you'll be able to choose different perks as you go from stage to stage, as well as kind of what possible items you can get. So you can choose from an easier set that will grant you more stronger items, you can choose for a set that will grant you more score-based items, but not as powerful. The rules remain the same. Levels are split between shooting sections, where you must kill enemies to pick up all the kind of like soul drops to get to 100, and the boss fights, where you'll fight very unusually designed creatures, trying to get the points from them as quickly as you can before you get shot. The feel of this one remains the same. I didn't see anything really different in terms of like your general gunplay. I'm curious to see like how far they're going to go with the different items and builds in the main one. If you missed the first game, it was more of a level by level structure. This is going for more of a roguelite, and we really didn't get a chance in this demo to see like the actual roguelite elements. Like what will be permanent upgrades, what is going to persist, that kind of thing. But if you did enjoy the first one, looking for some more sleep shooting, I would give this one a try. If you missed out on the first game and just looking for a more traditional and very explosive shmup, then you should play that one as well. We leave the dream world for possibly a nightmare with Umigari. This is the next game from Chilia's Art, who is of course maintaining themselves with a wide variety of horror-related titles, and this time they're, I guess, fleshing out in a manner of speaking. You are a fisherman who is out, well, collecting fish. Using your harpoon gun, you're going to go out into the waters, get some fish, bring it back, sell them to make your boat better. It's a very nice and happy game where nothing can possibly go wrong. Except for the fact that we have no idea where we are. A mysterious woman is talking about breaking a curse. And the fish start to wear human clothes for some strange reason. But I'm sure this is all very happy and nothing possibly bad is going to happen to you. Now, joking aside, the gameplay is very solid for this. It has a great hook, pun intended, as you go out, collect your fish, and make your boat better. If you run out of fuel, you'll be sent back to the nearest kind of checkpoint or fast travel station. And the gameplay loop here is that as you improve your boat, you'll be able to do more on the water, which will then let you get further out, which will then get you to the many different points of interest / areas, where you'll be solving puzzles and uncovering whatever mysteries are abound. And we were getting into this one. It's kind of funny that this is probably like their most like gameplay forward title. And during our entire playlist, there were no jump scares whatsoever, but who knows if they're going to be around the corner or under the water. If I had any like real issue with it, it's that during the kind of like exploring the building parts of this game, it is very dark to the point that I couldn't even see the floor, let alone the doors. And you could definitely make do with a flashlight during these sections. Now, the physics here can be a little bit janky. It seems like every fish is part rubber as they start bouncing, and they can easily bounce right out of your boat if you're not careful. And if there's ever an upgrade to add like an actual storage spot for your boat, you definitely want to get that. But this was definitely a surprise hit for me from NextFest, and I'm really curious to see where this one is going to go. So if you're a fan of fishing and horror, and looking for another great combination of the two, then this is a very easy recommendation. And now we go to Sisyphus is a Bug. This is a 2D, it describes kind of like a knowledge-vania, but our kind of structure here is that, well, Sisyphus has been reimagined as a bug, but they still annoyed Zeus, and we have been punished to roll our favorite dung ball up a hill for all eternity, unless we can make it to Olympus in under a minute. The gameplay here is kind of in the, I guess like time loop style formula. You have, again, only so many seconds to get to the top. However, the route, or the most direct route, you will never be able to make it there in under a minute. So you're going to explore all the other routes to learn what your abilities and movement tech are, which will then allow you to go faster and make it all the way to the top. It reminds me a lot in the similar structure to that of Ooh that we played in 2025, where there are very few upgrades, and it was just more about you uncovering how the tech works to then break the game and go all the way forward. And Sisyphus here is going to follow that same route, albeit it seems like it's going to be a far shorter game. Once you know what you're doing, you can probably beat this in a very few tries. So I did enjoy what I was seeing with the physics and the general structure. If you're looking for, again, a very lengthy and very technical Metroidvania, this is not going to be that game. But if you're looking for a very short form game with a very, well, short hero, then I would definitely give this one a try. And now we go to Skate Story. This is a skating action game where you play a demon in hell who's trying to break free, and apparently the route to success will involve you skateboarding and eating the moon. The game is definitely loaded with style to spare, from different cutscenes to how the different characters will talk. Our gameplay here should be familiar to anyone who's played an arcade-style skateboarding game. So if you've looked at the Tony Hawks, you should be quite familiar with the basics here. Where things differ is that the controls are a little bit more, I guess, like adjusted to focus on kind of motion in this. So your main element, of course, will be to kind of keep kicking your board or keep going faster and faster. Now, the camera is very zoomed in, and it's kind of easy to, like, if you hit an object or you kind of lose your momentum, to just have a hard time getting back that control. Your tricks will once again be tied to holding down a button and jumping. But where things differ here is that anytime you perform any form of a trick, there's a kind of like a style gauge or a kind of like a little motion gauge that appears near your board. And if you perform the trick or you release the button as it's in the sweet spot, you'll earn more points and you'll even like be able to move a little bit faster. Points in this one are going to be used when you're getting to the quote-unquote fights with different enemies, as the better the tricks you do, the more points / damage you do against them. And I was definitely getting into this one. It feels very much like an elevated take on the Tony Hawk formula. This is not going for the same level of like super realism skateboarding as something like the Skate series. So I would recommend this one if you're a fan of arcade skaters looking for a very unusual and very stylized version of it. And now for something a little bit different in terms of stylized, we go to Odd Town. This is a kind of first-person action-adventure, where you play a person who has arrived in a strange town in France. And unfortunately, there's some very strange things afoot. And you're going to have to, well, fight your way or explore your way to uncover the mysteries of it. Our gameplay here is kind of that of an action-adventure, where you'll have to complete different tasks, try not to fall and hurt yourself, and just see what kind of strangeness is abound. Unfortunately for us, the demo apparently soft-locked, as one of the triggers just did not work in order to move things along. I like the look of this one, and it's definitely going to be more on kind of like the, I'm trying to avoid using the word odd side, but strange side, in terms of its kind of exploration and mysteries. So if you are, I guess, like an action-adventure fan looking to do some of the touring in a very unusual town, I would at least give this one a try. And now we go to Relic Abyss. This is another in the Bullet Heaven style. I like the kind of art style for this one, kind of going for like an anime with the more like softer characters or softer design during the battles themselves. As for our gameplay, this should be familiar to anyone who's played a Bullet Heaven in the past like 3 or so years. You'll slowly wander around the arena, killing enemies to gain experience, and then you'll be able to choose from different perks. Now, there's a heavy emphasis on kind of the roguelite aspects, as you'll be able to upgrade your starting hub, get permanent skills. So instead of it being like a back to zero approach, like we see from a lot of the other Bullet Heavens, you are meant to grow in power and progress, much like what we saw in something like Halls of Torment or Death Must Die. So I would say from what I play of this one, it feels more on the traditional side. So for me, it did kind of play a bit slow for my taste, but if you're someone who's still enjoying Bullet Heaven games and looking for a very stylized and very interesting take on the older style, I would give this one a try. And for the last game of today's showcase, it is One Rotten Oath. This is an FPS / visual novel, where kind of the novelty here is that all the enemies and art are kind of done in a lo-fi kind of like motion or person scan effect, kind of what we saw in the first generation of 3D. If you play any of the, it was like Tama Zito style games in the early 90s, it's that particular style, as characters will slowly but surely come at you from all angles as you try to keep your kind of last bunker of humans safe after a nasty plague has turned everyone to monsters. So, our gameplay here, I would say, is a little bit on the jankier side. In between the different levels, there's these cutscenes that are basically, I think it's just a developer letting out their frustrations of the struggles of being an indie dev. But I did like kind of how things progressed in the demo, throwing in different situations, changing what weapons you have access to. Now, if you're looking for high-octane, incredibly polished FPS play, this is certainly not going to be that game. And I would say the jank is definitely going to be part of the charm here. So, if you have fond memories of FMV games, of characters slowly but surely coming at you, I would at least give this one a try. I am curious to see like how far things will develop in the main game. But with that, another night comes to an end. We are now hopefully past the halfway point, and if you have any favorites like me to take a look at, please get in touch. You'll find links to all the games down below, and with that, come back for more discussions and for more Indie Game Next Fest streaming later tonight. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff. Be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.